Hello vloggers and welcome back to another video on the Drewzy channel, coming at you live from Bush's dungeon today with Bush's dungeon assistant Jesse.
The first victim.
The teams with the most potential to do well in the future in the AFL. So criteria, I just want to brush over some criteria. Can't have made a grand final in the last 4-ish years, 4 to 5 years, so they can't be an established club, so it can't be a West Coast and Collingwood, Geelong. Like, obviously they're probably premiership contenders, but not potential, if you get what I'm saying.
Maybe just reinforce the grand final part.
Yeah. So, yeah, mainly reinforcing the non-grand final part. Nice. Which teams do you see dominating in the near future? If you like the video, drop a like, drop a sub. Let's get into it. So we're going to run through 5 to 1 and some honourable mentions. But at 5, rather controversially, I've gone with the Dockers. Of course I have.
That is controversial.
Nah, I don't think it is, because the Dockers are bloody good. I've seen a change ever since Justin Longmuir's taken over. It took us a while to warm up, but once we warmed up, we were a really good defensive side. We have lots of injuries this year as well. We have the youngest list in the AFL, tied with Gold Coast.
Is that right?
That's a fact.
That is an interesting fact.
That's a Drewzy fact.
Yeah, and you have had a lot of mature players miss a lot of football. Like, a lot of people over East wouldn't understand how good Alex Pearce is as a player. Joel Hamling's missed a lot of footy as well. You guys haven't had a lot of luck in that respect, and obviously with Jesse Hogan, he had a talented player on your list and he just couldn't get on the park. So a lot of like wasted sort of ability there with Fremantle, which might make people underrate them, but I do see what you're saying. They are very, very talented. Yeah,
and our midfield is very young but elite. Brayshaw, Chera, Sarong. I mean, they just look like they're ready-made AFL players and they're way off their prime still. They're going to be deadly. Give it 5 years, and if they can stay together and stay healthy, they will be one of the best midfields in the comp. Defence is one of the best in the comp. We kept Sydney to 2 goals this year in a game. I know it's Sydney, but 2 goals in a game. That's quite impressive.
Who's going to kick your goals, mate?
Yes. That's what we want to pick up. Who is going to kick our goals? That's the problem that Freo have. We don't have a reliable goal kicker because Matt Taberner has the IQ of an actual crab.
Crabs are actually the most intelligent sea creature.
Really?
No.
Yeah, I was going to say octopus. Matt Taberner definitely isn't an octopus.
Fair enough.
But, you know, lots of our young players are. Hayden Young, he played like 3 games. I haven't seen a player kick a ball as good as him. He just kicks it so the other team doesn't get it, bro.
That's
like, it's
nuts.
really good. Yeah, no, he has a really good kicking efficiency and darting kicks. And yeah, I don't know, I've got a big stiffy for Freo's future.
I can tell.
Luke Ryan, Sonny Walters, a couple of All-Australians. David Mundy had one of the best seasons of his life. And he's fucking, 73 years old.
Yeah.
So, yeah, a lot of potential there from young David Mundy. I see the Dockers winning a flag in the next 8 years. And it's exciting.
That is stinky.
So at 4th, I've put Melbourne. Now, they had a big 2018, took the league by storm, made it to a prelim, and got absolutely pumped by your Eagles. Going into 2019, everyone was saying like top 4, Melbourne are going to make top 4, looking red hot at the end of 2018. Crash. So 2019, they finished second last after making a prelim. Then they made a jump to 9th this year. So that's quite a jump, 8 spots.
I'd say that's a successful season to come back in the way that they have, considering how bad 2019 got.
Yeah, I think 2019 they were just romped with injuries, weren't they?
Yeah.
All season. They've got a great panel behind the players. Just need something to click, and I think they can boom off into the top 4 very soon.
Yeah, I think with the talent they've got in that midfield, with Petrarca had a breakout season. We're just waiting for Clayton Oliver to win a Brownlow eventually. Like the talent is undeniable. Maxi Gawn in the ruck. And they're particularly down back looking a bit more settled. I can definitely see why you'd have Melbourne in this list.
Yeah, Luke Jackson just looks like an AFL player as well. First season in. Good on the Metro stands for as well. They signed my favourite player from the previous season, Ed Langdon, and yeah, he was one of the more underrated players in the comp this year, I thought. And obviously they've signed Big Ben Boner Brown to the forward line, and that's what they've been lacking. I think Melbourne will make a big top 4 charge this year.
Weep and weep, am I right?
Yes. At number 3, we've got my second favourite team in the AFL, it's St Kilda. Now, St Kilda were stinky for a long period of time. They were very good for a long time, then Ross Lyon left, and then they were just stinking about. They've made some huge signings over the last few seasons, haven't they, Jesse? Brought in Brad Hill, among others.
Yeah. Classic example of just, I can't think of who the next player is. Brad Hill. 7 players over the last 2 years that they've added who are all conceivably best 22.
Hopped up 8 spots in the past season. So 2019 they finished 14th, up to 6th, won a final, didn't show up in the second elimination final. But, you know, not a bad year at all by any means. Maxi King, he will be a great forward in years to come. Looking very nice.
Yeah.
For the Saints.
You could say that. I think Max King up there is a potential sort of like linchpin with the midfield that they're developing is good. And then you got guys like Caulfield and Hunter Clark who I'm big on as well. It's all starting to come together for the Saints. And even Billings, Gresham, those guys are very, very good, talented players who could become like A-graded.
Looking very nice for the Saints.
Could be nice.
Coming in at number 2, a team that took everyone by surprise in 2020. It's the Port Adelaide Power.
Port Adelaide Power. Trisha Tucker,
Finished 10th in 2019. Hopped up to 1st out of nowhere. Did anyone see it coming? I don't think so.
Very few. Only lost 3 games for the year. That's pretty wild.
And I think you've said it before, and I'm just going to absolutely steal it. They're very top and bottom heavy.
Nice.
Obviously got the young guns like your Dursmas, Rosies, Georgiades. Darcy Byrne-Jones really showed how good of a player he is this year. Probably could have made All-Australian. Good young talent, good old talent. You got your Travie Bogues and your Tom Jonases. You got your mature age players that are ready for a flag. And I think your Rosies, even though they're young, I think they're going to make a real surge soon, very soon.
They're in a weird position where they're like obviously playing for a premiership and have some of the best like old talent. But like obviously we talked about the draft, the Dursma, Rosie, Butters. Then the next year they took 4 top 25 picks, guys like Miles Bergman, Dylan Williams, Mitch Georgiades, among others. And then this year they added Lockie Jones as well as an academy player in the first round. They're actually adding all this like really, really good young talent on top of like an experienced list. Yeah, they're a bit scary, I will admit.
Couldn't finish the job in 2020. Couple kicks away from a grand final, but they've added Alia and Fantasia, who are, again, young players. Those are players that are going to be very important when they do, start making more prelims and eventually maybe get to a grand final. Alia and Fantasia will both be there, you'd think. So that's 2. So now we're going to run through some honourable mentions. Jesse, this is where your list would have come in.
Yeah, so I did have a slightly different list to you, Drewzy. The 2 honourable mentions that I would have, first of all, I know they kind of don't count by your criteria because they did play in they actually won a flag 4 years ago, the Western Bulldogs. I was thinking the draft, now they've added Jamara Ugelhagen. It'll be an absolute failure if this team doesn't win another flag in the next. I don't mean in the next 3 years. I mean in the next 5 to 8. I mean we know about their young nucleus with like Bont and McRae and all the guys like Caleb Daniel there. They're still quite young players. And Dunkley, yeah. Well, if he stays,
Trelaw.
Adding Jamara Ugelhagen is a generational key forward talent. Bailey Smith, guys like Ed Richards, and I haven't even mentioned Aaron Norton. Like some of these guys are the best young talent in the league, and they haven't hit their prime yet. And that was the unique thing about 16. A lot of their good players hadn't hit their prime yet, and they still won a flag. So they're probably my number 1 shout, even though they've won a flag already.
Yeah, that was why I didn't include them into my top 5. They've won a flag, so it's like, I don't know, they do have a lot of potential, but I just wanted to have teams that haven't had a crack at the flag. So, yeah. Who else did you have in your list?
There's one other team I want to mention, and I think no list is complete without these guys. The Gold Coast Suns, I think, are a glaring omission, Drewzy, so you should just quit YouTube.
Yeah, sorry.
Just because I know the Gold Coast are unproven, but if you look at the players they've got in, I actually think this is probably the best talent base they've ever had, including like that first initial draft they had. Since they added Rankin, Lukosius, King a couple of years ago, added Rowell and Anderson, Flanders and Sharp last year as well, and then added this year Elijah Hollins. That I think the talent there stacks up as scary as I've ever seen on a list. I just feel more confident they're going to make it. So as far as I'm concerned, probably up there with as any team in terms of potential.
Who do you think will win a flag first, Gold Coast or Freo? I am not having you come on my channel and say Gold Coast will win a flag before the Dockers. If Gold Coast win a flag before the Dockers, I will quit YouTube.
Let me qualify this. I'm more confident that Fremantle will actually become a good team again.
Nice.
But I do think the added up talent that Gold Coast have on their list surpasses Fremantle.
I disagree.
Really? Well, I mean, you look at like Rankin, Lukosius, Ben King, and Matty Rowell, Noah Anderson. I think...
Chera, Brayshaw, Sarong.
I don't think so.
Nah?
I think Sarong's probably the most talented out of the 3 you mentioned. And I think you look at that and you go, Matty Rowell, just as good at least.
What young defenders do the Suns have that the Dockers don't?
Charlie Ballard's probably one I would nominate.
Who the fuck is that guy?
Yeah. And another one of your former Fremantle players, actually, Sam Collins. But I would agree that that's a hole they need to plug, so to speak.
Yeah.
I would agree that their backline is probably the one place they don't have it completely sorted out.
They have beaten us 2 years in a row as well, so it is a good argument to make. Lucky that there's no actual Gold Coast fans on the planet to argue for their point. And I also wanted to mention Carlton. Brisbane. Again, another side that's been stinking it up for the last 10 years. Had a good season this year. They finished one spot above Freo, and that was literally the AIDS result where the umpires gave. I'm not salty. I'm not salty about that result. Carlton beat us after the siren due to umpiring decisions. That literally decided 12th and 11th. So I think they're on the same plane as Freo, but I just wanted to throw Freo in.
Carlton as well, I think there's no doubt that they do have a lot of talent, but they're another team as well as where I'm like, I want to see that talent develop before I get too confident. At the moment, It's just talent. That being said, I just made the opposite argument for the Gold Coast. So, I mean, who knows with this stuff? It's really hard to predict. Carlton are definitely talented, but again, I can see why you had them just outside that fight.
Yeah. Who comes in at number 1? That was a very long fight. It's the Brisbane Lions. Now, they finished second 2 years in a row and haven't made a final. I think there's one piece that just needs to be twinkled with, and I think that should be a grand final side, a winning grand final side. Best fullback in the comp, best player in the comp in Lachie Neale. Joe Danaher, if he can find his form again, he'll be dangerous, and it'll free up your Hipwoods and McStays. Very exciting side, Brisbane. Play very well as a team. They don't have too much superstar power, you know what I mean? They've got Harris Andrews and Lachie Neale, Zorkos, but other than that, they just play well as a collective, and that's what makes a good final side.
I agree. I think you can compare them to the Bulldogs, who I just mentioned as well. They won a flag before any of their young players hit their prime. And I feel like, other than the players you mentioned who are actually in their prime, your Berries, your McCluggages, your Cam Rainers, those guys haven't even begun to scratch the surface of what they're capable of. So for that reason as well, and because they're already demonstrating it, I agree, the potential with Brisbane is probably unrivaled.
Yeah, they just need a bit of consistency through the players like Hipwood and Charlie Cameron. I hope Danaher comes in and actually makes an impact, because I do love Brizzy. It'll be interesting to see how Danaher goes, but I think Brisbane have the most potential to win a flag out of any side right now. Anyway, that's going to wrap up this video. Thanks for coming on, Jesse. Tracked it down, and I appreciate it. Drop a sub to the True Footy channel. Thank you for watching. We will see you in the next video.